Like I said Sunday in Baltimore, I'm appreciative of the efforts of all parties involved. I think that sentiment remains the same. I am still a little bit numb, to be quite honest with you. You fight over the course of what is half a calendar year to put yourself in position to be a team in the tournament, and it kind of comes to a screeching halt. I've been in the business long enough to understand that and what it means, and to understand the significance of it. But it doesn't lessen the disappointment that you have standing here today. But at the same time, it doesn't lessen the resolve that I have as I stand here today as well. We endured a lot of adversity during the course of the season in a lot of ways. Some of it created by the game itself, natural attrition associated with play. Some of it was our doing. It always is. We fall short of perfection like everyone. And hopefully we've learned from it in some way. I'm not in the mindset as I stand here, and I told the team this yesterday, of wrapping a bow around 2019 just yet. Somehow that's comfort-seeking to me. At the same time, I don't want to waddle in it because we don't have a lot of time for that either organizationally, man. We have to absorb the lessons learned from 2019 in an effort to control what we can control, and that's, the foundation of 2020. And so we're going to quickly move to that. And part of moving to that is assessing 19 and doing so in a very detailed and methodical way. We're at the very beginnings of that. To be quite honest with you, I started today, this morning, meeting with players. I require all rookies, all practice squad guys, all guys whose contracts are up to meet with me initially, and then I get to some of the others. So I'm in the very beginning stages of assessing what happened, the evaluation of the men, the evaluation of the coaching staff, starting the planning, how we move forward and things of that nature. That's some of the things that's going to be ongoing here over the next couple of weeks. The self-scout element of play is a component of that. Looking around a little bit, looking at some things maybe some others are doing. When you're not in the tournament, it allots you more time for that self-analysis, if you will. So we're going to utilize that time in appropriate ways in an effort to begin the foundation of what is 2020. But 2019 was what it was. I appreciate the efforts, but we're not one of the teams in the tournament, and we understand that. I thought through the course of it all, I thought there were opportunities for growth for a lot of young men. A lot of guys rose up within our ranks in terms of their responsibility and their contributions. Hopefully that's an asset to us. Hopefully that's a catalyst for many of the young people as they move into 2020. The experiences that they had, that is a catalyst for growth. Because we need to get better. We need to get better in all areas. In an effort to get better in all areas, we got to start first and foremost with the individual man and his health, his overall readiness and conditioning, and then thus game. So we're breaking it down, and we're about to begin that process with each guys individually and tailoring programs to bring the best out in them and to gain some clarity about what the journey for them is going to look like of improvement, because that's how we collectively improve. At the appropriate time, we're going to analyze our schematics and our division of labor from a coaching staff perspective in an effort to do similar things. That's a good component of it for us, to study the trends in the game, our place within those trends, whether we're on the right side of the curve or whether we're lagging. There's a lot of discussions to be had. From a health standpoint, there's probably not a bunch of new things to discuss with you guys as I stand here today. Many of the surgeries and things that need to transpire already have, and you guys have gotten updates along the way about guys who have been injured. We're starting the process of exit physicals. We've had some minor injury and so forth as it relates to game 16, ankles and so forth, but nothing that appears to be surgical at this time. So The rehabilitation element of it is not under any type of a clock. I don't believe any of those things that happened this past weekend is worth mentioning in this setting from a surgery standpoint. Not any surgery scheduled based on the information that we have here. Obviously, some guys that have gone through some health things like Ben, who are in the process of rehabilitation, will have some significant updates along the way, checkups that allow them to move into different areas of rehabilitation. We're going to get some clarity about some of those things, I'm sure, in the upcoming days and weeks, whether you're talking about Ben or Stephon Tuitt and guys like that or others. Don't have a lot of clarity on some of those things in terms of their next significant update and what that might mean, but we'll be gaining some of that. In terms of free agency, we got some guys obviously up. We'll do our normal business. We'll do a good job of communicating. Our attitude regarding all of these guys is that they're Steelers until they're not. That's been the message that I've expressed to guys that I've met with this morning, and we mean that. We appreciate what these guys have put into it. We're going to work to do business with them. The business will speak for itself, whether or not the sides are able to come together, and the market does. But until then, those guys are Steelers. This building facility will be open to them and things of that nature, and we'll continue to plan and communicate not only for 2020 with those guys, but just big picture things as it relates to their careers. For me personally, challenging year, but they all are. I hadn't spent a lot of time, weighing the dust settling. I'm sure I'll be doing some of that, self-analysis in ways that I can lead the group better and get better. And I'll be working extensively over the course of the next couple of months in terms of gathering information in that regard. I believe regardless of how long I've held this job, you have opportunities to get better. You learn from the journey. You better assess it, analyze it in a lot of ways, turn stones over. I'll be participating in that as I always do, and look forward to working to improve and finding better ways to put together a winning formula. We got to do that, obviously. I'm standing before you 8-8 and on the outside of the tournament, and so that's not a place we want to be. I'd be happy to address any questions you might have on those subjects and whatever.
Mike, where do you get that information from about yourself other than your own personal evaluation?
Just this process of visiting with the men that I work with, both players and coaches, studying trends in the game. All of those things directly or indirectly provide me information about things I need to do culturally in order to build an environment that allows us to produce consistent winning.
Like aside from the physical throwing of the football, you mentioned a number of times during your press conferences how an experienced quarterback could have helped your offenses, checks the line of scrimmage, backing off the opposing defense for the run game, things like that. When you're evaluating the offense, what does Ben's potential return, what can he not fix? What are you looking specifically at that can't be fixed by his return?
I don't have the answer to that. As I stand here right now, I think, you go into it just ready to peel back all the layers and analyze every aspect of play. And yes, some of it, it relates to Ben and his presence, and you understand what his presence means. But largely, you're just analyzing it. And so, we got areas to improve in across the board, positionally, schematically, and I look forward to do so. As it relates to Ben and as it does not pertain to Ben as well.
Mike, did you see enough of Mason Rudolph to be comfortable with him coming back as Ben's backup, or might you look at a more experienced backup quarterback?
I'm comfortable with Mason Rudolph. I'm disappointed that he missed the amount of time that he did. Injuries are part of the game. He had an opportunity there to grow in a lot of ways and get a lot of experience. He missed some time due to injury and performance and so forth. But I am comfortable with Mason Rudolph.
Are you comfortable with Devlin Hodges?
In what capacity?
The same one.
Mason's the backup.
Well, Mike, with Mason as a backup, would it be in your better interest to get a veteran as the third? You always kept three quarterbacks. Would it help to have a veteran guy?
I don't even know what the potential market is as I stand here, to be quite honest with you. we're in a self-analysis, and so some of the questions that you guys ask lie outside of us, and I'm just not ready to, weigh those options. Man, we're open to any and all options that's going to allow us to put the strongest football team that we can put on the field. But to stand before you and act like I have an understanding of the depths of the veteran quarterback market would be an untruth.
In terms of Ben's recovery, do you have a timeline in your mind that you'd like to see him, a certain time that you'd like to see him throw by?
I do not, particularly in my mind. I lean on the expertise of the medical professionals. What I want is secondary to that.
What's the biggest thing Duck has to improve this offseason to be back in the mix again next year?
Man, this is a guy that really had an awesome opportunity when you look at it. Opportunity to play, opportunity to grow. I believe he did those things. How much he grows and what it means for him in terms of his evolution as a player, we're going to be writing that, and he's going to be writing that as we move forward.
Coach, as you meet with your players and assistant coaches and staff, what is the overall mindset of your team right now, especially knowing that in 2020 the team will not be exactly the same as we know it now?
I don't have a feel for that. I haven't visited with enough people to have a feel for that. All of us in this building, in this business, understand there's a scarcity in this thing, and that change is a part of it. And I think any of us has been in it for any length of time understand that. So I believe that goes without saying. I don't think there's anything earth-shattering or groundbreaking in regards to that. Guys that's been in this thing know that there's going to be changes, and there are going to be new faces, and roles are going to change and evolve, grow. Some may diminish. The wheel keeps on turning.
Do you expect any movement on your coaching staff, and particularly with Ray Sherman possibly, winding up his interim status?
I don't have any idea. I don't put the coaches in front of the players. I'm visiting with players as I stand here right now. I understand that change is a part of the business, and so I wouldn't be shocked if there is some movement and changes. That's just part of this business, particularly in 2019.
With the strides you made on defense this year, how important is it to you to have Dupree back?
He's a priority for us, but we hadn't had extensive meetings in terms of, defining that. But make no mistake, Bud Dupree is a priority for us.
Would you like to add to your running backs, or do you just want to see more from the guys who are currently there?
I'm not ready to talk about, what 2020 looks like in terms of, our agenda from a free agency standpoint or a draft standpoint. Kevin and Colbert and I get together, man, over the upcoming months and really do an awesome job of communicating and kind of developing that collectively. And so, that'll be answered as we move forward. I think I'm more reflective and evaluating the men that are here and what they did and the prospects of what they're capable of providing us as we move forward, as opposed to some of the things that you mentioned.
How do you evaluate Juju's season that he had? I know he missed some time with injury, but what are you kind of looking for him to step up or improve on in this offseason? I hadn't met with him yet, so we'll develop a mentality in that regard. Injury is a part of a game. He knows that. I understand that. We don't waste any time, worrying about that. I like the way he grew as a leader. I like some of the leadership presence that he provided even when he wasn't participating for young guys within his position group like James Washington and Deontay Johnson. I thought he took a step in those ways. In terms of production, particularly at the receiver position, man, a lot of those things are defined by variables that at times are outside your control. We're not going to worry too much about that. It was what it was. I'm sure it was a disappointment for him. It was a disappointment for us collectively talking about 2019. We'll absorb it, be accountable for it, and move forward for 2020.
Now that you've had some time to reflect, just a few days, I know, but how can you kind of put into words what it was like to lose Ben? Because that was the first time you've ever not had him for a full, for the majority of the season, and how were you able to convey that to the team to remain competitive without Ben?
We live by the cliche that the standard is the standard, and so opportunities like the loss of Ben, incidences like the loss of Ben gives us an opportunity to live that out. So I don't know that our mentality changed in terms of what our intentions were. It was an opportunity for us to roll our sleeves up and and make that a reality. And so our focus was there. Our focus was individually doing what was required for us to get in and out of stadiums with wins. I didn't spend a lot of time, crying about it. I still haven't. Maybe I'll gain a better perspective as I get some distance. In the process, there's a certain urgency to respond to the next challenge that doesn't give you a time to waddle in it, to be quite honest with you.
When you get a chance to look at this, what were some things that Ben's return can't fix? What were some areas that were exposed this season that you found that's going to be?
Again, I'm not there yet.
How do you account for James Conner's health and your evaluation of him in this season?
That's a big component of it. He didn't spend a lot of time on the field healthy, but that's as much a part of the game as blocking and tackling. We'll assess it. We'll assess it with him as it pertains to him in an effort to minimize it and to what degree that we can moving forward. But injury is a part of the game. It happens.
How many running backs would you say you have on your roster that you can trust as a primary guy for a game?
Your question?
How many running backs do you have on this roster that you can use as a primary guy for a game?
I think we're going to be defining that as we move forward in 2020. What somebody's role was in 2019, I don't put them in the box in terms of what they're capable of being in 2020. So we got some good, capable men. I'm not going to, put restraints on what any of those guys are capable of being. We got some guys under contract, some of which proved that they could play in an expanded capacity because of what happened with James, and we'll see what transpires in 2020.
You talk about the overall evaluation process, talking to players, especially veterans. How much do you value their opinion, and do you welcome it, and do sometimes you have to actually coach their opinions out of them, being that you're the coach and they're the player?
There's a dialogue. The opinion or how much the player talks has a lot to do with the player and our relationship and how long they've been here and things of that nature. It's on a very individual basis, but make no mistake, you need information in order to make decisions and judgments and evaluate. So there is an exchange of information in these meetings for sure.
A couple years back, you went 8-8 in back-to-back seasons, missed the playoffs 2 years in a row. How much can you use what you learned from then now?
I don't do a whole bunch of that. The variables are ever-changing. The men that you're working with are ever-changing. I'm just focused on, as I transition from 19 to lay a good foundation for 2020 where we're not having this discussion.
Mike, do you take any solace in the fact that with all the adversity that the team rallied to win 7 of 8 and seemed to rally around and coalesce around the adversity?
No.
I know you said that you haven't done much self-evaluation yet, but in what ways did you feel like you maybe grew as a coach in regards to having to mix in so many young guys off the practice squad throughout the course of the season?
I really have no idea as I stand here. Just not there yet.
I kind of another quarterback question. Ben doesn't need a quarterback coach necessarily, but with all that Randy has to do, would it behoove you to bring on a quarterback's coach even to work with the younger guys that are less experienced?
In terms of the division of labor from a staff standpoint, a quarterback coach being one of them, that's things that I evaluate as I assess the staff and how we worked and the type of foundation that we need to lay as we move forward to 2020. I'm not opposed to that thought process, that discussion, that exploration, no doubt.
Is part of that evaluation deciding if you ask for more position assistants?
What do you mean by that?
Looking at what you need, the division of labor, all the things you just said. When you do that, do you then decide to go someone above you and say, hey, do I need more position assistants?
Yes.
Coach, from the outside looking in, many times the fans and people who are not a part of the everyday fabric of the team, they'll see the games, they'll see the press conferences, but many times people don't see the business aspect of football. Could you talk about how the level of intensity from your standpoint really doesn't change because, of course, with the free agency, getting ready for the draft, scouting players and the like? Could you please explain?
I just, as somebody that doesn't have a lot of hobbies, man, and loves what he does for a living, I embrace that element of it. That's the only way that I get over the disappointment of the season, to be quite honest with you, is in a few weeks, man, I'll be headed to Mobile and I'll begin anew. Exposing myself to the 2020 draft eligibles. After that, you'll start exposing yourself to free agent potential availability and the evaluation of those men. You'll get prepared for Indy and the interviews associated with that. The wheel keeps turning. The challenges, there's urgency to the challenges. They're different. You have to pivot and transition, and I look forward to doing that. That's aspect of the job that I really enjoy, and like I say, it's therapeutic for me.
Free agency become a little bit more important this year because you don't have the first-round pick. You're picking potentially low in the third. You put a little bit more onus on free agency than normal.
You know, there's urgency on it all the time. I mean, you know, we're giving it special attention this year. You know, we say that every year. You know, man, there's big-time urgency in this, man. There's big-time urgency in the decisions that we make in free agency. There's big-time urgency in terms of how we prioritize our draft needs. It's not checkers, it's chess.
Did you see the necessary jump from first to second year guys you'd like to see, like Washington and Edmonds?
I did in some ways, but I think I'm still in the evaluatory stage of it. Just a gut reaction, yes. But it all starts first and foremost with a level of conditioning that displays an understanding of what lies ahead. And we talked about it at the very onset of this journey. Most of those guys had displayed that awareness. So it's reasonable to expect a jump in performance. James Washington displayed that awareness with the level of conditioning that he showed up in Latrobe. So it's not surprising that he was able to take a significant jump in terms of what he was able to contribute to us, for an example.
In what ways did it help you to have Ryan Shazier here to kind of help Devin Bush through his rookie season?
Not only Devin, but, you know, Ryan's a football junkie, you know. He is. He loves it. He loves to be around it. He loves to talk it. He's an asset to those guys. He's a teammate. It's no different than any other guy that's injured and got his hand in the pile and helping his guys get ready, whether it's day-to-day from a practice standpoint or whether it's game work. You know, we expect all our injured guys to be positive contributors to our efforts, and you know, he's among those guys, just like Ben was, unusually so this year, but was really pleased with the contributions from him in that regard as well.
You said you don't have any updates on Ben's surgery or recovery, but do you have any kind of a timeline when he can begin throwing, or how soon he'll be ready to join?
I know that he's due for an update somewhere around the 1st of February, a checkup that will be, you know, probably significant in terms of mapping out what's next. But that's a moving target, that date.
Is there any optimism that he'll be ready by mini camp or training camp or the season?
Again, we've been taking it one step at a time. I think we're going to get whatever information as it pertains to what you ask probably around that time.
Mike, you got 4 offensive linemen at 30 coming up here in a couple weeks. Does that need tweaked at all, the offensive line, in your mind after the season?
You know, I'm always interested in adding depth and competition to any position group, if that's what you mean.
Anyone else for Coach?
When you say Ben was unusually involved in everything this year, how did you see
No, he was unusually a non-participant.
How did you see him kind of evolve and grow as a leader, even though he couldn't have an on-field?
I wasn't focused on that. I was focused on trying to get the guys that were playing ready to play. He was extremely helpful to us.
Mike, you've done this. You've worked with Kevin for a long time. Obviously, he's going year to year with his contract status. And this draft could be the last one, potentially, with him. Do you cherish those moments like that because of that?
I don't get sentimental, if that's what you mean. Man, he and I both been at it a long time. It's realistic to say that we've probably seen more days together than we're going to see. But I don't analyze it any deeper than that. I look forward to getting back out there with him and continuing what it is that we do.
Mike, you guys are on a short list of teams that are eligible for Hard Knocks. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't.
Would you do it if they asked?
Asked?
Anything else? How do you develop an off-season plan with your quarterbacks when you don't know if Ben will be 100%? What I'm saying is construction of the roster, when you're unsure that probably until August.
Man, there's a wide margin for error in the offseason, man. You got a 90-man roster. It's not going to be an issue. Us dealing with his availability or lack thereof. It's just not.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys.